I can't support this. This seems to me to be a form of extortion. We will finally provide the funding necessary to take the proper care of our animals if you change the law and allow us to sacrifice Queens and the Bronx. In 2000, this city council passed a law mandating shelters in every borough. And since then, you've been in violation of that law. In fact, in '02, you came to us and said, we need an extension. You promised us that if we gave you the extension, you would build the shelters. And we extended your time to 2004. 2 counties, Queens and the Bronx, which would be like the 17th largest state in each one in the country, still have no shelter. Why is that?
Well, I respectfully disagree with the characterization that animals in the Bronx and Queens are second class. There's a burden, it is true, placed on residents to often bring the animals to the shelters. This bill, while not building up full-service shelters there, will substantially...
You had your chance to testify about what this bill does. I'd like to know why we don't have full-service shelters in Queens and in the Bronx. I believe you said it's in 10 years, but you can't find a location. Is that your answer to that question?
We are pursuing a location in Queens. We have found a location in the Bronx that has faced substantial opposition.
And you couldn't find a location that where you didn't face opposition?
Correct.
In 10 years. Okay. And let me respectfully disagree with your statement that animals and people aren't treated differently in Queens and the Bronx. In fact, I don't know if you read the Daily News today. In fact, I haven't seen the article, but I know the article in the back. But I did speak to the family last night of an animal that was lost and put to death in 6 hours. The fact is, the family in Queens doesn't know where to go when they've lost an animal. They travel to Staten Island, to Manhattan, to Bronx, and it took them a while to Brooklyn. It took them a while to find their animal. By the time they found it, it was dead in the freezer. So that's today's Daily News. So you cannot sit there and say that the people and the animals in Queens and the Bronx are not under a completely different set of rules than other boroughs. A person who loses their dog doesn't know where to go in Queens, doesn't know where to go in the Bronx. In other boroughs, they have a place where they would go to find that dog, and that time period could save that dog's life. That is a huge difference. That's why we need a full-service shelter in every borough.
And if you have the DOH in charge of the AC&C, you ensure failure because the DOH has no mandate to care for animals. It does have a mandate to care for people, to protect people from animals. Now, this current bill, while laudable because it does provide money, that money is not enough and it will be wasted. And the reason why it's going to be wasted, it's going to be thrown at this system where the DOH is in charge of everything.
We continue to believe that each borough deserves a full-service shelter, and these new resources will be an important first step in the long-term rebuilding of New York City's shelter system. In the future, we would also like to revisit the issue of board composition and independence so that AC&C's board has a complement of members with operational expertise and the ability to fundraise. Our commitment to helping New York City's animals is the reason why we support Intro 655.
We are so excited that additional funding is within reach. AC&C staff believe that every animal and animal owner deserves attention and care. The animals deserve a clean place to sleep and exercise, quality food, human attention, and medical care. The public expects appropriate customer service and programs that keep animals safe. The efforts of our organization, with the collaboration of community partners, has been amazing. I want to thank the Health Department, the ASPCA, the Mayor's Alliance, and other animal advocacy groups for seizing the opportunity to enhance services for animals in our care, especially in such a difficult budget climate.
Even with the new monies, New York City will give less than half the national average to the care and welfare of its animals. So basically what this bill does is put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Now, Mr. Cass also was talking about the two new shelters, which Mr. Vallone was pretty incredulous at his answers, and I don't blame him. He stated that the two new shelters are not being built due to space and community opposition. Space. There's no space in Queens or the Bronx. How are we supposed to take that seriously? Seriously. Now, the fact of the matter is the only reason that these shelters aren't being built is money. But in this recession, it's not going to happen. I realize that. And that is exactly why we need to amend this bill and take the ACC out of the Department of Health's hands. The funny yet sad thing about the funding issue is that the ACC board, people were talking about the board of directors, how we can increase whatever, they don't have the right people. The ACC board currently has 2 people who are Wall Street hotshots on the board. I work on Wall Street, I know. And the head of marketing at Penguin Publishing. And yet, do you know how much they raise for fundraising? Almost nothing. You can check the Form 990, it's public record.
I'd also like to point out that the Board of Directors has been something at ACC that we've been talking about for years. It is a not-for-profit organization. Animal Care and Control is an independent entity. The problem is it holds the contract through the Department of Health. The problem is it does not have an independent board like a not-for-profit should. They need to expand that board, and they need to put people on, as the ASPCA also said, with operational expertise and with the ability to fundraise. I think that board composition does need to change. All over the country, they build animal shelters without a law mandating it. It's political will, it's capital, we can do it, we're New York City.
Now, you said the only reason that you haven't followed the law that we passed is because you couldn't find a location. Let's talk about the Dangerous Dog Board. I know you're aware of it, but some of the people here may not be. Administrative Code 17349 mandates the existence, by law, of a Dangerous Dog Board, which is supposed to meet 4 times a year to do things like come up with policies to better take care of our animals. Is there a Dangerous Dog Board in existence today?
No.
No. Were you having trouble finding a room in the health department to establish a Dangerous Dog Board? Was that the problem there too, with you reiterated to see obeying the law?
Well, I just want to say that I've been the Deputy Commissioner for Environmental Health for a little over a year now. When I came in, I looked at comprehensively at the kind of animal services that we fund, we provide, and our mandates. And as you know, we've reached out to Council to constitute the board. So we will constitute this board before the end of this year. We will meet 4 times a year. We will, Council, we expect to name 3 of the 5 members of it. And what I'm just trying to say is...
I want to give you credit for everything you just said, because you have done that. I've been out there yelling for a Dangerous Dog Board for 6 years. You've only been in your position there for a year. But I've been explaining that you're violating the law for a long time. It had the health department in my office. I've been to the health department. They basically looked at me and shrugged their shoulders and said, yeah, we know. We just don't have a Dangerous Dog Board. And again, in violation of the law, the same way you're violating the full service shelter law. And I want to thank you for that, for reaching out recently for that. But it's, again, been a long time that you've been in violation of the law. So my point is that you've assured us that you were going to, in 02, that you were going to follow the law. In 04, you didn't. And now you're asking us to basically let you off the hook for the law we passed in 2000 for the promise that you will provide funding in the future because of the law. And you haven't obeyed these laws. So, as our chair said, I think we will be haggling over this funding in the future. Once we pass the law, let them off the hook for something that we mandated a long time ago. I happen to think a lot of the things that you're doing and the sponsors doing on this bill are very good. But I happen to think you can do them right now. You can provide that funding right now and get it done. We don't need to change the law and shortchange Queens and Brooklyn to get the good parts of these bills done. So I appreciate what you're trying to do. For the most part, I really appreciate what the sponsors are trying to do. They're trying to get the best they can under the circumstances in the face of administration that just won't obey the law. And they're trying to do the best they can, and I completely understand that. But I can't support a bill that doesn't treat the animals and the people of Queens and the Bronx equally. They deserve the same protections. Thank you, Madam Chair.